G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by the Astropub and Space Tomato. How you doing, lads?
Hi.
Hi.
It's super early. It's super early for Space Tomato.
What time is it there, Space?
Oh, it's not too bad. It's 8:40,
7 a.m.
8:50.
Oh, it's
no, it's good.
8:50.
We're good. Yeah,
Man, he's got up for episodes at 6 a.m. That is not early. Trust me.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
currently,
we've done much earlier.
I've been up since 2:30. It's now 3:50. So yeah, a.m.
It's just November, so like
Yeah.
everything feels tired.
Yeah. And you'd have all the
feel more
family
tired in
stuff
November.
coming up as well too, wouldn't you? Like all the Thanksgivings and Christmas and all that. We're starting to feel it already. Is it just me? Are the decorations going up earlier and earlier? Or is it just me?
I feel like people were saying that 10 years ago too, though. Like we just have to accept that they go up super early.
people were in my neighborhood were decorating for Christmas in July, and like August. I'm not even kidding.
It's good summer times.
Some people are obsessed.
Just keep them on year round, dude.
It's all year round decorations.
Eventually, we will have a year-round
Jolly Christmas.
IAE.
IAE
will be year-round for CG.
I'd be interested in hearing how many people in the audience like are have parents like mine, where we come back to this house and decorations from the last holidays are still where we left them, and they don't move unless we move them. So like we have the wreath from Christmas up.
Damn.
We got like a couple of little ornamental pumpkins somewhere upstairs sitting on a countertop because they just didn't get moved.
Yeah, they leave things as you guys found them. All right, well, we've obviously got Aegis Day today. It's one of the bigger ones. Like before 3 a.m. hit for me, so that's when it kind of starts for me. The Aegis is already gone. The javelins were already gone. They kind of like put them up like 5 minutes early, and people just snaffled them. They were just gone so quickly. It was not funny. So it's the sale this year's been a lot different. Like where I don't know how to explain it, but the website's running more smoothly. I don't know what they've done, but like I don't know if you guys remember.
It's not breaking.
Yeah, well, it used to take me 10 minutes just to get in, right? And now I can just load it up like everyone else, but a lot of things are already gone. So I don't know how it's working, but they've definitely increased the traffic flow somehow. So kudos there, but they definitely haven't increased the number of ships that are available because they are just gone.
But, dude, I just don't understand that. They've been doing Idris and Javelin sales every year for like 10 years, right? And they do, what, 1,000, 2,000 of them every time?
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I don't think we
really
like
how many freaking Javelins are out there?
I don't think we know the numbers. They haven't done numbers for a long time. I do know at the very first fail of the Javelin, they did 100 of them. And when I think I worked out that they made $128,000 in 36 seconds.
Dang.
If they're doing them at that number, that would be better. But it's still just like thousands of javelins out there in Star Citizen doing what? It's wild.
You already had that conversation. I know you're going to have that conversation, and we're going to be having that conversation. It'll probably end up being an Inforunners episode, which is like how many people are buying large ships without the realization of what it's going to cost to run the larger ships.
And how many people are going to lose javelins like Argrid?
Yeah, I'm trying to work on a bit of a video about that because I've already seen it a little bit, and I put out a poll on my channel yesterday just to kind of get a little more info. Like, how many people are changing the way that they're buying things because they now are starting to realize that, like, oh, this ship's going to be a little bit more work.
That also may be a good discussion to have with IAE because post IAE because once we look at the numbers, because as of right now, this is completely off topic with Aegis.
Aegis.
We're going to be very basic with Aegis. Unfortunately, I'm going to be very, very clear. We were talking about it before.
Aegis is basic with us. Okay, have you seen their latest models?
But
give us an Intrepid.
We've seen like a lower enthusiasm, and lower numbers in compared to previous IAEs, and I think it may have to do with that. CIG dropping that bomb about what multi-crew is going to look like and what the game is designed for. And I've been fearing this for years that people are going to go, oh, Star Citizen is not the game that I bought.
The buyer's remorse. We've been talking about buyer's remorse for a long time, and I did realize that it was going to come once they talked about it at CitizenCon. I was like, yep, this is the beginning of the buyer's remorse stuff. But all right,
I'm surprised it took this long to begin. Jesus.
Yeah.
No, true. No, that's a good point. All right, let's kick it off. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. But you did mention the Intrepid. Yeah. Who wants to take this one?
I will take
all
this.
of us.
Yeah, just set the house on fire. Yours. There you go.
It has not been a secret in the community. It has been a statement that has been blasted to the eternal, like every single person who says, I would like to buy Star Citizen. What is a good starter package that is not $45? There will be 1,000 people saying Avenger. It is just fundamentally the best ship. It is the Drake Cutlass of advanced starters.
Yep.
It is like Aurora, Avenger, Cutlass. That has always been the progression. I don't think that's going to change ever in Star Citizen's history. If you want to do it all starter that can do a little bit of everything that's solid, it's the Avenger. And the Stalker is going to get one of those big updates soon, because even though it's not the Titan, which is the starter, the Stalker, which is the bounty hunter variant, is likely going to get an overhaul just because of bounty hunting putting in. They're going to have to change out those pods. So.
Just like the Hawk.
Yeah, we can chuck them in. Like they're basically the same ship now. They've kind of it always was a suspicion that about, you know, because they also, you got to chuck the Warlock in there, I guess, as well. But the Warlock is such a fundamental change of the inside, and you give up a lot to get that Warlock that I always assumed bounty hunting pods were just going to be some form of cargo, and I think they've kind of confirmed that now with them turning them into the kind of beds. They are a lot more, let's say, stackable, than previously. But I don't agree with any. Don't agree. I don't disagree with anything you said. Sorry, man. I butchered that. But yeah,
Execute is running off of caffeine and hope right now.
It's all downhill, man. It's just gradual decline into mental disorder and
it's too early in IAE.
It's day 2,
dude. You got to remember, right? This has been going since I got CitizenCon. It's just been this slow downhill decline. Because look, I'll just tell you what happened to me, right? So I got COVID, got really, really sick. I got a blister on my foot that turned into an ulcer. So now I'm walking around in UGG boots, like look, UGG boots like this.
Comfy for your feet.
No, but I gotta walk everywhere in them. So I walk like a freaking hodgepodge everywhere. So that's made me really tired because it takes ages to walk everywhere. And then on top of that, I slept on my neck wrong, and so I've kind of been walking around for the last. It's only just starting to get good now, but I was walking around like I was in a Batman cowl for the last 4 days, because I just couldn't turn my neck. So I was doing all this. So yeah, it's just all hit at once, and so I was stuffed before I even began. So yeah. Anyway,
the con hit back.
We've tangented like crazy.
Well, Avenger is like I don't know. I think Tomato. I think you can probably agree with all of this. It is the standard that I think every other starter ship is compared to.
It is.
It is.
I just released a video about this actually because I think that's a problem for the community. The way that we very much, and this might be a thing at larger ships or more specialized combat ships, but we get very focused on making sure that something is always compared to the best in its class. When like I've seen people actually make comments that are, oh, this thing, I wouldn't pick this over the Avenger Titan. What's the point of this existing? And I'm like, dude, what? Like if we wanted to have the best spaceship in every class, we'd have like 10 spaceships in this game. There needs to be redundancy. There needs to be reason to pick other ships, and this is the go-to suggestion for good reason, but there's got to still be reasons to also want to try other ships.
Yeah, I think. Are you talking about a credence to moving towards like best at what it does? I think that's what you're trying to be implying.
Yeah,
and that's my point. Is that like that's one of my complaints about a lot of the starter ships that have come out is that they don't excel at one thing. They just sort of exist, and they exist on vibes, and so as a result,
I like
the Avenger. I would rather it gameplay wise. My brain is always in that game. I'm a lore guy, but like my brain's always in the gameplay side of things, and it's really hard to like tell somebody who's coming into the game who has no idea what the game is about to say you should get what you want, because the buyer's remorse can hit real hard if you get, oh, well, the 100i looks cool, and you get the 100i and you find out that it's just not quite as good as the Avenger Titan. And people are going to go, well, I should have just gotten the Avenger Titan. You know,
I think if it can reach the standards for a starter ship, then it's good. And there's going to be a lot more people who care more about the ship specifically than the specific cape. Like, I think there's going to be a lot less people who play this game as, you know, quote unquote casual players who care whether a ship has 8 SCU or 6 SCU. I think they're going to care more about whether or not it has a bedroom and an entrance, or it has, it looks cool and feels good on the inside. It has walls that they can decorate versus one that doesn't.
All right. Avenger Titan Renegade. This is basically a reskin of the Titan. I don't think it's really worth the money anymore, personally. What are your guys' thoughts on that one, just real quick?
I love its lore, but yeah, it's you're paying for a skin and some weapons. Is what you're paying for.
Yeah, it's just a new weapon pack, right?
Yep, pretty much. Avenger Warlock, as we said before, you basically give up all the sleeping quarters and all that type of stuff to gain an EMP.
I think you still have the sleeping quarters.
Do you?
I thought it was just a cargo.
It's just a cargo. My bad. Just a cargo. My bad. Sorry. Yeah, the cargo. Yeah. It's been a real long time since I've even been in this thing. I'm going to be totally honest. Have to be close to 3 or 4 years.
I still remember the trailer for this coming out. That was a cool trailer.
Yeah.
Yep. Probably one of the cooler trailers, actually.
Made ArcCorp look cool.
I don't know. For its price, it's quite good, but I think there are better EMP ships out there personally now. So yeah. This really has to speak to a certain type of person, this ship, because you can literally get the Retaliator for the same price, which is also available today. And the advantage of the Retaliator to me is that you can swap it to do other things because of the modules. But yes, you do need more crew. So that's what you're weighing up. Like, I can do half as much as what they can on my own. And then I'm talking about just the bombs, obviously, because you've only got 3 bombs. Or I can have 6 bombs, but I need 5 people. But I can also do cargo. I can drop off, it's got the drop pods. It's got the, all the modules it has. But you know what I mean? Like, it's big store flexibility. And I just can't get behind the ship at $300. I just think it's way too expensive.
I think it's a buying game. If you are very, very dedicated to it, like, it's a stealth bomber,
That's the other thing that came out during CitizenCon that was one of the very key things I picked up, right? And it does change this a little bit, right? So you need to analyze this, and I'm still analyzing it, right? They literally said military ships, so ships like this, cannot be purchased. They can only be crafted. So you have to rep grind for the pattern, and that's why combat military ships cost more, because you've got to rep grind for the pattern and then build it yourself.
Did they explicitly said that at CitizenCon? Because I know that's true. I just want to make sure I can get the soundbite of that for a video.
Unless I'm remembering it wrong, I'll try and go find it. It would obviously be on the live stream. But that's what, like, there are certain things me and Algrid wrote down, and there wasn't a lot that was really new for me and Algrid on the second day. Like, of the things that we'd predicted and stuff like that, that was one of them. And it was when Richard Tyra was talking about the Arrow and the Prospector. You knew how he did that game loop thing?
Yeah.
That's where he was talking about it. Yeah. And then the other thing was literally that you could build the Bengal. Everything else we had either predicted or kind of known was going to come. So it was just really cool to see that update of, 10 to 12 years or whatever, how long it's been, of all those talks that they've done over the years, just amalgamated. Because now we can just go look at that video. We don't have to go. Yeah, we did. It's made content creators' lives a lot easier. And I think they're almost following up there with on AIE. Did you notice the time to disable discussion? Yeah. It's great. It's like they're coalescing everything, which is fantastic.
They're finally got things written down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Your boys' opinions on this one?
It's hard to justify.
Yeah,
and personally, it's just really hard to justify.
Yeah, I mean, if you're real dedicated to blowing things up in life, and you got a lot of money to pay for torpedoes.
To give you context, that $300, $50 more, you can get an Endeavor.
Yeah. To put in another term of friends, we do have a friend,
Jesus.
Paul Diabolus, who is obsessed with this thing.
Yeah, he loves it.
I think he's got a couple of them from memory. But yeah. So if it speaks to you, it speaks to you, but it's not a value proposition.
It's a good point though that you make about it, that it's a distinct difference between this being a solo bomber when you're behind enemy lines and you're running in stealth, you're going in without any backup, maybe some backup, but versus a retaliator where you're like a crew in a squad, in a military, a militia, running missions together. I do like that distinction, but it's not worth buying.
Well, again, it does still show you there's a place for it, though. Do I send in a retaliator with 5 people and have 6 torpedoes, or do I send in 2 eclipses that cost more, but if one gets taken out, the other might get through? You start to see, you know what I mean? Like there's, like, what's the real expensive thing in this game? People or ships? We haven't got there yet. We don't quite know what that is. You know what I mean?
Different answers for different people.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be interesting. All right, the Gladius.
Like, the blood of the org is worth it.
yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing multiple red shirt merch from everyone. Yeah. Right. The Gladius. The kind of standard ship in Squadron 42. This thing is very, very, very polished. It's not my jam, and again, I think across the board, Inforunners really don't recommend buying fighters. I don't know if Space Tomato, you seem to be different to a lot of us because you don't recommend buying almost anything, and that's totally fine. I got no problem with that. But do you understand why we say you don't buy fighters, though, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Some people have a real problem with when you tell people not to buy stuff.
When we say don't buy fighters, we're just talking purely based on value. You buy whatever you want. Yeah. We're just saying value, these aren't good value. Much like the vehicles. It's the same thing.
Well, they're going to add a little bit more value now that we've mentioned the whole like military vessels now.
Yeah.
Are likely only going to be able to be crafted, and you have to like earn them. So it's going to require a little bit more work. But even then, you'll probably be able to purchase them from players.
Let me put it into perspective though, right? What do you want to craft more? And what do you think will be easy to craft? This Gladius or say, I don't know, a Polaris?
The Gladius, obviously,
right?
You know,
so the Polaris will be easier.
So in weird turn of phrase, yes, all military ships become harder to make, but the bigger ones, like we keep telling people to buy, like I don't know, a Javelin or a Kraken or whatever the military. Actually, technically, Kraken wouldn't be military because it's Drake. It would be like an Idris. Like again, the bigger the ship. Like, this is why they've all had that combat tax all these years. It's actually a military tax, not a combat tax. And when you start to realize that, that's why they're priced the way they are, because they know that you're not going to be able to craft them. Oh, sorry, buy them. You're only going to be able to craft them. So yeah. All right.
I always thought of the Gladius as like the starting combat ship in the game, but it's actually pretty expensive. I mean, not that expense is the way to go about it, but I do think of this and the Arrow as kind of like the first dedicated fighters.
There's $25 difference. That's significant, I would say.
That's fair. So you'd say the Arrow is the first and this is the second? And, you know, obviously there's like the 125, the 325, the other starter variants, but like purpose-made ship.
I'd say they've still got, because they got beds and stuff, they're a little bit more generalistic, but I would say the pure combat fighter starts with the Arrow, but this would probably be the very next cable threat. Well, not this one, but this is the Valiant, and I think we'd all agree that, again, much like the Avenger Renegade, it's just a skin pack and a couple of guns. So
I love the lore, but it is not worth it.
If anyone buys a ship based on lore, I think they might have some issues that Astropub would like to associate with them. Have you ever met anyone to buy a ship on lore, Paul? I've honestly got to ask that question. Really?
Yes.
What ship was it?
The Zeus.
I can get behind that. One.
People bought the Zeus because of the lore behind the Zeus. So
that's the one I will give you.
And the Gladiator. People bought the Gladiator because of its lore. But
yeah.
What other reason is there?
The Gladiator is quite tanky now. I don't know if you.
As long as you get missiles working.
Yeah.
It's still a very fun ship to fly though. So yeah. Right, the Hammerhead. Not my jam. It's not going to be everyone's jam, but it's definitely got a place in game.
That price though. Oh God, that's
Jesus. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's military tax.
Yeah. Well, again, I know the Polaris is not out yet, but the price of the Polaris right now is $750, and it's almost twice as big as this thing. So you can only imagine how much the Polaris is going to jump. And I'm predicting, again, it's usually 10 to 25%. So that would make it $825 to $900. So that's that $75 bracket that I'm looking at for the Polaris. So that's eye-watering.
To put it in context, the Perseus is a little cheaper than this, I believe.
Yes, it's $675.
Yeah,
Perseus is cheaper. I guess it'll be more expensive when it comes out.
It's smaller, and it's also requires less crew than the Hammerhead, and it has more versatility than the Hammerhead. Like, I like the Hammerhead, but that's a bitter pill to swallow when you have the Polaris and other things like that.
And they're in the same.
That's an expensive ship.
And they're in the same size class. The other one you want to look at too is the Nautilus. The Nautilus is not out yet, and that's $700.
Yeah.
So again, that'll probably jump to $770, $850, that type of thing.
And I believe the Hammerhead was originally like $500 or $600 when it was first sold, something like that. I'd have to look that up. That's just me talking out my butt.
I can't remember, honestly.
That's such a unique,
either way.
Like, the crazy thing to me about these more expensive ships is how unique they are in their gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, essentially, you're buying the ships that have the least amount of useful gameplay in the game. I mean, there are uses to fly around with like a Carrack, and now the Polaris is being like a home base with the respawn potential. But as far as the combat potential goes for these ships, there's not really much in the game that'll challenge them that much.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Not right now.
You're kind of buying for the future.
Yeah, you are. And that's the thing. And I don't think until the Polaris came along did a lot of... Well, you guys have both been on it, right? And the thing I keep hearing from other content creators, they're finally starting to see that... like the Polaris only has different versions of combat at the moment, right? It doesn't even have engineering. But just the difference and having to communicate with each other, people are starting to see that clock tick over, and they're like, now I see the potential. And I'm really happy that other people are seeing it now too, because again, Hammerhead was a bit samey because it's all the same turrets, but just changing, like, you know, the different torpedo types, the missiles, every turret is essentially different. Well, there's two on each side, but you know what I mean? You got the real big one at the back, the medium one at the big one at the front, the medium one at the back, and then there's two quad ones on the top. They've all got a slight difference to them, and it just spices the whole ship up. It's really interesting. Anyway,
by the way, I looked it up. It was originally sold for Warbond at $550.
Yep.
So that shows you the price increase. So likely the Polaris and the Perseus and the other ones are going to go up significantly. So that's a huge jump.
Yeah. They don't always do that, but I think the Hammerhead was the first, and I think they really overpriced those ships because they're too far up the Polaris's butt and price range, if you get my point. But Paul, would you like an Idris? Too bad they're sold out. Yes. At $1,500 they're sold out. So yeah, and as I said before, if they are roughly, you could do the math. There's usually about 100 of them or so. So just times that was like $150,000 in however long. But yeah,
to be fair, that's also pretty much that. I'm looking at it right now. The standalone price it started out with was $1,250. Yep. So this is one of those things that CIG said a long time ago, which was that every ship is going to get increase in price.
Yep.
When the ship first releases, it's going to be the cheapest it ever is. And you can always get it in game, but it's going to become more and more difficult to get it in game as they start to add more and more features to the game. So
it's generally because of material scarcity and inflation. It takes a lot more to build the ships now than it did back in 2014.
I don't remember the original price, but it was actually even cheaper than that because it was originally a Corvette like the Polaris, and then it grew in size. I remember it was sub $1,000, and then it went up to the price you mentioned, and then it's gone up again. So I'd have to go look at it. I can't remember the original price. It's over 12 years of doing this. I can't hold it in my head anymore. There's too much. The Javelin, same thing again, $3,000. So that means they made roughly $300,000 in under a minute. That's just bananas.
$3,000 is insane.
Yeah.
This ship always ends up being more expensive than I think it is. Is it continuing to go up?
It's
is it just?
Up. I remember it being like $2,000 a couple of years ago.
Good freaking Lord.
No, it's been $3,000 for a little bit. But I think it started at like 2.2, then went to 2.5, and now it's at 3. And I think a lot of that's got to do with other ships coming down the line, like the Kraken.
Yeah.
Like the Kraken's not out yet, and the privateer's $2,000 or a bit over $2,000. So when that comes out, that'll be like 2.2,
yeah,
2.4, depending where it lands. So yeah, they need to make space for the other prices.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious what you guys think. When do you think the Javelin would be an interesting thing to use in the game with other players? Like, when do you think there will be enough content to make? Yeah,
after 1.0.
Yeah,
I don't even think
it's an org-based
ship. 1.0. Yeah, it's an org ship, but it's like
at 1.0. What do you reckon is going to kill the space stations?
Yeah, true. Like,
fair.
These are things.
I'm just trying to think of like PvE content they'd make for this. Obviously, the global events.
There's a rubber ducky shooting range.
No, they said that they're going to do a PvE section in Nyx, which is going to be instance battles against the Vanduul. So that's where you'll see this, but it's going to be 1.0 post
big stuff.
Probably post 1.0. So
all right.
Yeah, they got content. They said long ago.
I can't wait, man.
They're going to make content for every ship. So
I can't. Of course. Sides. I just think about the scale of it, because I was just talking about the Polaris and like playing with that. It feels really good, and even the save stance and global event, it feels like it fits in there with the kind of larger scale of those battles. But I do wonder how long until like bounties or mercenary missions or other things like that are calling for ships of this size, and maybe it's just the global events. But I look forward to that time.
You know why he worries, Paul? Did you know why he worries? Because he has one. He got.
Because I spend too much time thinking about it.
He got to the referral award.
Javelin?
Yeah, he's got one. He got the referral.
Yeah, I got one from referrals.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to come and help him. We're gonna have to get all the people together and get on there and help him out. So yeah, we'll come.
It must be nice being popular.
It was a surprise. I was like, what I didn't like, because it was completely unexpected. But the new players guides, I think, like. You'll put out a news player's guide and you'll get referrals from it a year and a half later, and that was not expected.
We're gonna have to get Honey like a captain's hat or something so she can captain it and fire everything. Like, I could just see her doing that. Like, I don't know why, but I know she likes to shoot things, so she must be very happy you've got one.
Does love to shoot. Pretty sure her gun that shoots me is like right there.
Yeah. All right. The Nautilus. This one I really like because there's nothing really like it in the game. My only cautionary tale is with my talks with John Crew and Argrid and I talking with Ben as well. Basically, we're pretty sure that we're going to get bigger versions of this going forward, because these mines are tailored at fighters. So if you want something tailored at bigger ships, then maybe this is not for you. But I know a lot of people that are excited for this because it's just so different from anything else in the game currently anyway. But can you get behind it I've just noticed the price has got... No, I'm serious. The price has gone up by $25.
It was
just now? Yeah. Just today?
I don't know. It was $700, but now I'm seeing it as $725. Maybe I've remembered wrong. I'm getting old.
I'm looking up Nautilus right now. I'm on the by the way, Star Citizen Tools has a fantastic list of all the prices that they have registered. So it was originally Warbond at $675.
Yep.
And it's standalone. It's at $725. And it's been at $725 since 2020.
Yep. Yep. Okay. I've remembered wrong then. Okay, that's good.
It's a really cool looking ship. Both interior and exterior look really cool with this thing. It's such a weird application. It makes more sense now that we've talked a little bit more about the game. But when this first came out, I was like, who in the world's buying a mine layer? Like, I know people were hyped for it, and there are people watching this who are probably very excited to do this gameplay. Just like, people are going to ask who's doing the cargo box stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely people want to do this stuff. But at the same time, I was just thinking, like, this is the only ship that does it so far. It's $700 ship. And it has a very unique need. But you could make missions for this. You could figure...
Just on that point, sorry, and I know I'm interrupting, but they did also state at the time they talked about the mines and the sensory turrets. Any ship can do it. They just can't do it as fast as this can.
So you could just carry them around in your cargo bay.
Yeah, you've got to manually arm them and stuff like that, and it actually has drones to disarm them and clean them up as well and maintain them.
Yeah.
So it's the whole suite, where everything else you'd probably take out, say, something like a Vulcan or something like that, and it would be slower at doing because you'd have to make allowances for it and stuff like that. So this is, again, a specialist ship, almost like the Eclipse or the Retaliator bombers. It's tailored at that. And again, as I said, they're more than likely going to make other ships that can do bigger mines and stuff like that.
Do you know the crew of this?
God, I'd have to look it up. It's been a hot minute, but yeah.
It's got to be like 6 people, right? 7 people,
six,
at
I
least.
think.
Yeah.
6 people.
Look it up real quick. It is 4 to 8. 4 to 8.
4 to 8. Yeah. So I'm just thinking of like.
So that's almost like the Orion, by the way. The Orion's 5 to 8.
Yeah, so, but the Orion's going to make a ton of money, right? If you crewed this thing up with 6 people. What are the chances that you're going out and doing things that are going to pay for all those 6 people, plus all the mines, plus all the fuel, and the maintenance of the ship?
But how do you make the money on the Orion if you're under attack? This thing can put a minefield down, and then you can go. Then you could go mine within the mines.
And they're also homing mines, so that they act as, and they're with the strength of a size 10 or size 12 torpedo. So I'm not basically invisible torpedoes.
I'm not saying you can't figure out how to make this ship work. I'm saying that it sounds like it's going to be a bit of a challenge or a bit extra work, maybe, to make missions that are both engaging and rewarding to people. Like you're going out and laying mines, and then you sit there for 2 hours, and a ship runs into a mine, and mission complete. You all get 80,000 credits. Like there kind of needs to be more to it than that, you know.
Well, let's run that through the teamwork aspect though. Like I've got to move the ship while the other guy's doing the drone and maintaining it. I've got to keep it a relative distance so it doesn't set the mine off. Like all those tensions you've seen in sci-fi shows. Like I'm thinking of all the Star Trek episodes that had mines. Like they're dragging mines, and you know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it sounds like it'll be fun. I don't know. It's hard to say because everything in this game is not going to be the most fun to everyone. I don't doubt this ship, but I am very interested in seeing how they create enough content for it.
Yeah. All right.
I will say as well that one thing I will say is that I think CIG is going to be moving, especially with this ship, is for things like the MMOification. For people who don't know how MMORPGs and classic MMOs work, is typically they classify things into different categories. Where so in this case, you'd have something like the Perseus, which is the same size category as the Nautilus, would be classified as like a tank, as its job is to direct fire to it, so that it would so the fire wouldn't be going off to the squishier targets. So it's armored up, has enough destructive power to be dangerous, so you have to pay attention to it, but not enough to be like crippling entirely. It's more emphasis on armor rather than speed or damage. And then you have the DPS, which is the Hammerhead, which has a ton of firepower that it can put out there. And then you have things like the AoE, and that's what the Nautilus is. The Nautilus is an AoE. It's designed as an area of denial or area of effect, where
area of control.
Area of control. So
I've always seen it almost like a spider sitting in a web of mines, because it's got those 2 big size 7s, and it can just kind of shoot at you as if to say, come get me, but you've got to run through the minefield. So you could almost antagonize people through your minefield.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So
it's much more of a planning gameplay.
Yeah,
it's like if you're doing, it has to work with other people. It can't be like a solo ship.
This is like the space station org shield defense kind of stuff that they talked about in Pyro and Nyx. This ship will be amazing for that.
Yeah. Setting up, it is a support. It's a defense attack support or defense support. It's very different from that because of that nature of it. But yeah, again, you can see it's got a very unique role. There's nothing else like it. But remember, chances are, like with any ship, something else is going to come along that lands next to it, so to speak. So yeah, or treads on it. Yeah. Right. My favorite, the Reclaimer. I still think this is insanely good value for the size of this thing.
It's a moneymaker.
Yeah, and it's a moneymaker. Yeah, I like anything that's a moneymaker. I tend to like, because it's just going to make your time a little easier. I still think we got a bit of rework stuff to do on it. Obviously, things like the docking collars are going to change now. The elevators need updating and things like that. But I'm going to have a bit of a gripe here with Paul, just because I can, right? But Paul, you often go on along about the Reclaimers, the Redeemers engines. Why is there no other ship in the game from Aegis that have engines like this?
Because this isn't it has nothing to do with this has nothing to do with Aegis and has everything to do with the fact that it's the Sulaco from not the Sulaco. What is it? What's the alien ship?
Norman Stratos. Norman Stratos. Nostromo. That's it.
But doesn't that still stand though? Like if you're going to complain about the engines of one Aegis ship, why can't you complain about this one as well? Because like I honestly think
because these make sense because they're propelling a gigantic ship and they actually do what they're supposed to. Whereas the vector lock engines, while they look stupid, they don't actually function properly as they're supposed to.
Yeah,
like they're supposed to be some special snowflake engines and they do nothing. And so they don't have any value to them.
You just know now the skin they're making for your ship now of it will now have snowflakes that fly out the back, right?
I think they should just put Paul's face on the front of it.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's gonna have like neon signs. Yeah,
I want it to make sense. Is the problem? Is that like if it beat the best ship in the competition, which was the Brutus. If you haven't looked it up, look up the Drake Brutus from the Next Great Starship.
I think we kind of got a lot of inspirations from that. Like I think the Hammerhead is clearly. I forgot the one the Russian guys
Scimitar.
made. Yeah, but that is clearly based on that. Like it's so similar.
The Buccaneer is heavily inspired by the Brutus. Like. There's a lot of those things, like the Raelian is the silverback.
Yep,
like they're all
before my time.
Yeah. But you can tell they've influenced designs basically.
Well, it helps that a lot of those people who built those were in that competition work there. One of them is the head designer for the LA ship team.
Elwin.
Yeah.
Oh, that was Elwin. Nice.
He, go look up his ship, the Guardian. It's
an anvil ship.
Yeah, you look it up, but it's crazy close to some of the other ships that are in game now. Like you can see almost like the infancy of some of the other ships that's inspired his designs and stuff. So yeah, and as a one-man team, he excelled. He was really good. Anyway, at $400, the Reclaimer is pricey as all ships are in this game, but
nothing beats it.
Nothing beats it for salvage, and crazily enough, it's now the same price as the C2. So, yeah, I think it's very cheap compared to, and I know that's a relative term, but compared to other ships, that is a steal compared to some of the other ships. So
I mean, there are like single seat fighters that are almost this expensive.
I think we're getting up to $330 for an F8. So yeah.
This is the Orion of Aegis. It looks different from all the other Aegis ships. It acts different from all the other Aegis ships. It does different things from most other Aegis ships. So it's a pretty unique ship. People love this thing, man. This thing's got a cult following it. It's like a cult within a cult.
Yeah. The Battle Claimer is an amazing build of this.
Yeah, people like taking this.
You know the PDSs as well. It's meant to be getting those as well. It's meant to have PDSs.
You think so?
Well, again, they said all capital ships will have PDSs.
And it's a capital ship.
But you're the lore guy. I remember someone was telling me the other day in lore that this has PDSs.
I don't know if it does or not. It probably does. The thing is for those who don't know, the reason why the Reclaimer is such a good combat vessel is A, it's tanky, but B, it only has 3 gunner seats, and it does the one thing that I wish CIG would do with more other ships, which is a 1 gunner will control 3 guns.
Yep.
And if you point your guns to the left, all of those guns will point to the left.
They've changed. They've changed it in the last year or two. They made them all separate, and you had to change between because it was too strong. Do you remember that time we went on stream with Morph Space, and I was saying to him, "We need to go out and we need to fly this thing," and he thought I was crazy lunatic. He found out about 12 months later I wasn't a crazy lunatic, and then after he put it on stream a couple of times, they nerfed it.
Yeah.
So I probably should never have told him.
Those streamers changing the game all the time. God.
All right, Paul, tell us about your favorite ship.
I hate it. It's wonderful. It's terrible. It's I can go over it because I've been exposed to this thing more because of my disdain for the Redeemer and for my long history of complaints against this ship. I end up getting all of the information whenever it gets updated. And so I've stopped trying to like avoid it. And I just look up whenever the redeemers change, just so I know what it is. So when someone comes on and says, "Hey, Paul, do you know?" Yes, I know it's changed. It's gotten this, and this, because I have to follow it, because otherwise every 5 minutes, someone in my chat would be like, "Hey, Paul, the redeemers changed." Like, I struggle to find value in this ship.
Well, let me put it
now.
Can I ask you
for its price, it is one of the best combat dropships that exists outside of the steel. Well, as much as people hate the steel, it's better.
Let me ask you one question.
God,
considering the price of the F8 and this and the Caterpillar, they're all roughly very close to each other. Which one would you take? You'd probably take the Caterpillar, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
Then if I remove the Caterpillar, would you take this or the F8?
I'd walk.
that means you'd take the Redeemer, right? But yeah, I think considering how expensive that F8 is, it's crazy how close this is, and it just does so much more. But I do to Paul's point, so to speak, or to Paul's benefit, I think we are going to see a lot of people upgrading for this to the Paladin when it drops on Anvil Day, just because of the gunship nature. Now, I could be completely wrong on that. It could be a completely different role for some people, but I just get the feeling the new gunship in town. You know what people are like when something new and shiny comes? Like, there was a lot of people that melted Carracks, and then they had the new Carrack pods drop yesterday, and I heard about a lot of people unmelting them to get their Carracks back because they like the changes in that. It's that whole now versus release problem we talk about as well, that people just don't remember all the features and they forget things that are coming and stuff like that. So this will come around again. What I'm saying.
It's just like the nature of it all too. Yeah. All of the things that annoy us and piss us off at any given time with this game, a lot of people forget about them within 6 months if things are going well. Yeah. And the same will happen for certain ships too. People are going to forget about how bad its ship used to be if it suddenly has a bunch of gameplay and good features working for it. And maybe they can do that with the Redeemer. We'll have to see from Paul's judgment.
So there was a content creator, I won't name them and shame them, but I was talking to them about 2 days before CitizenCon, mad as hell. 2 days after CitizenCon, sunshine and rainbows. Like, it just instantly what I thought of when you said what you just said. So, yeah. Right, the Retaliator, as we said before, this is just the base version now.
The base. They don't sell the torpedo version anymore, so.
Yeah, so you got to buy the modules separately, but still allowing you to kind of start cheaper and kind of roll in. I don't really have a problem with that.
I do have a problem with that image, honestly, because it's implied that it's torpedoes included, which is a problem. I would change that to just an image of them flying rather than firing torpedoes.
Cool,
dude, it's CIG. They cannot market stuff without something shooting. Yeah. Something.
Yeah, I don't know why, but because that's a completely different thing. But yeah, but it is. I would say the Retaliator is one of those vessels that is a Swiss Army knife. So it will have its value as the game evolves. You'll start to see the value more and more with it because of its modules.
You know how they write like graffiti in that on the bombs before they dropped in World War II? Maybe they should just write subtly on that one, bombs not included. But you're right.
They write on it. This was bought with cash.
Yeah, that does kind of imply a little bit that it comes with the bombing thing. But maybe somewhere once you go into it, before you buy it, should say, please note that these modules are not included, and if you need to buy modules to add the functionality. I do hope that's clear to people. Well, actually, can I actually? No, I can't open it. Wait, can I? It says the points. It doesn't say they're not included though. Wait, this ship isn't insurance, upgrade content. You keep any so.
Click that little expansion.
This one
here. Yeah.
It's just going to be the page from the Retaliator.
Man, they need to be more clear about that.
Yeah. They even mentioned the torpedo if you look at that again, they actually mentioned the torpedoes in there. So it's like, it doesn't come with the torpedoes. And go back to the other page.
Yikes, guys.
Whereabouts?
Yeah. Right there at the bottom left, room includes cargo, torpedo, dropship, and living quarter variants.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It even says include. That's the wrong word usage.
Yeah, that's the room options.
Room options. But it needs to be
and then above
brackets,
it says
it needs to say in brackets rooms not included though, or something like that.
Yeah, it does say up at the top what's included, and then it doesn't have the torpedoes in there, but it feels like you should explicitly say that it's not included.
It says more info.
Yeah, what is that? This pledge includes. See, there needs to be. This pledge does not include.
Yeah, guys, come on. Come on. That's what.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't. I'm sorry, COG. That's a bad no.
That's a legal issue right there.
Yeah.
So that needs to be adjusted pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yep. All right. The Saber. Let's take this one.
It's not bad.
God, I love the ship.
Go ahead. You like it better than I do, so go ahead.
I think
Who does?
You, Tomato.
Yeah, tell us what you think about it.
I don't have that much opinion on it. I love the way it looks. It's always been my favorite looking fighter. Like since they released it, since they announced this thing, I was like, that looks like what I think of when I think of a space dogfighter. And it's always kind of stuck around in that spot. In fact, I have the Saber Raven, and I prefer this model over the Raven. Because it looks cool. It's got 4 guns. I don't know how big the guns are. This is one of those ships where I'm like, yeah, market this shooting that stuff, please. This is great. It looks good.
I don't disagree with any of that.
Fly this very often though, so I don't know how it actually fights.
It still is my favorite version of the Saber, believe it, and I own the Saber Raven. I think it's going to take until armor and shields and all that come in properly until we see the strength of this, because it's always been the Ninja, but because it's the Ninja, it just feels weaker than say some of the other fighters, and I think that's the problem. And again, it's aged a bit as well. So again, once it gets another pass, it'll come around.
They gold passed this, didn't they? Last summer.
Yeah, they did actually, but I mean, I'm talking more like weapon balancing, right? And we know that's all in flux at the moment because of there's a lot of shit in flux at the moment. That's the other thing. I think a lot of people have been burned out because there's so many, things like the flight model and all that are just taking a little bit longer than people would like.
Is this just a stealth fighter in that it's supposed to have a lower signature, or is there something else with this?
So I remember, Paul can probably talk to this a bit more than I can, but I remember a lot of the Aegis stuff having some kind of low signature stealth paint. And it's on the retaliated, the Eclipse. Like anytime you see that black and red stuff, and this was no different. So it's just a little bit like a Hornet Ghost without some of the more advanced modifications. That's how I see it, Paul. But yeah,
that's basically it. It's designed to be more naturally stealthy, so it has no matter what components you put on it are going to be like more suppressed than others. I think eventually it might because we have to wait until the new system's set up. The new way that they do scanning and that sort of thing. So
is it better than the Super Hornet?
In terms of stealth, yes.
In terms of combat.
No. Super Hornet has more combat. This is only 4 size 3s,
and you got 2 people as well. So as soon as you add an extra person, it just gives you multiple benefits. So yeah,
true. Yeah.
It's a good solid like medium combat vessel that has more to do with stealth approaches, but it's a dogfighter, so it's going to turn better than other ships. It just doesn't have nearly as much.
Again, like the Ghost, we don't have that gameplay of signatures and stuff yet, so it's cut full horse problem.
And the thing about this whole thing is like there are Sweatlord PvPers who swear by the Saber.
Yeah,
like they will ride or die with this thing, and it has its value. You just have to find it.
Yeah,
right now.
Certainly looks cool.
Same thing again in the comment. Just a weapon skin package upgrade. Not really worth it. So
yeah. Love the lore, but yeah.
Can we put these two together?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest and it's just upfront from the get-go. I hate them. I just think they could have done so much better. Like the Firebird, I see the idea, the concept of essentially like a sweep over bomber, but it just doesn't work. And then the Racer, like that's not what people were looking for when they said, "Can we have a Saber Raven variant?" They wanted. Like, and that was the funny thing. Like, if that's what they thought people wanted, that's a bit weird. Because the thing that people wanted was, well, we had an EMP variant. Give us a QED variant. Where the hell's that?
Yep.
That's what people were guessing too. So they came out and they were like, it's what people were guessing on Reddit. And I was like, wait, what were people guessing? They were guessing the QED one, right?
QED.
And then they came out with a racing version.
Well, they didn't say
people were guessing that.
John Crew didn't specifically say Reddit, but it was announced on Twitter. So if you actually go read the Twitter post, everyone was saying QED. So I just went, oh, finally they're going to be out the QED, and it turns out it's a damn racing variant. And it was like, this is not what everyone said. But if it was on Reddit, if there was a Reddit post and that's what he's referring to, well, then maybe that was the case. But you would assume he was talking about where the original thing was put up. So yeah, bit of confusion.
I love the look of the Firebird a lot. I think the Firebird looks really good. I actually like the look of it more than the Saber Raven. But yeah, both of these variants of the ship to me feel like the kind of thing a company does when it wants to make more money off the gold pass it's doing on a model it has that it wants to make sales with. And this was weird.
I'm going to say something that's going to hurt, but this feels like what EA does with its with Apex Legends, with their expansions. They're like, oh, people like this from the past. Let's bring this back because people like Titanfall. It's like they're doing everything they can with Saber. They're doing everything they can to try to make people like the like the Saber again, because everyone likes the Saber Raven and the Saber. And they completely miss the fact of why people like the Saber, because it looks cool and because it has some interesting, unique value to it that doesn't other ships have it. So like the fact that they still haven't done a QED variant of this tells me that they don't know. They don't understand what their audience likes.
I think the term is swing and a miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they also need to read the room. Okay. It's like it's always been the case of like CIG is treading the line of doing sales and getting on people's nerves with how they do it in the backlog and all that. But like over the last year or so, with the, oh, you missed this, come and buy it kind of sales, with the, we're going to make additional variants of this ship because we're doing the gold pass on it kind of sales, with some of the changes that they're doing with, like, I'm not saying all of these are mistakes or bad things, but they add up. The timing of them adds up, and it keeps getting to people. The Atlas, the Galaxy, the Corsair, these ships, they stick in people's memories, so that when something does come along that CIG does that's actually bad, all this stuff piles on top of it, and I think it gets people a lot more mad. And then you have like the fact that they're doing Zeus Mark II.
Is that the term? Bottles up, and then it's all released.
And then you have the Zeus, the Zeus Mark II. The Hornet Mark IIs, giving people the wrong perception of what they're doing with ships. It's not that they are going to Mark II everything, but now people are starting to think that. Like all of this combines to, I think, make people a little bit less comfortable with the ship sales.
Yeah, I can see where you're going.
It's they make small missteps, and then when they make a big misstep, everyone points to the small missteps as saying, "See, this is a pattern. It's a pattern that CIG is trying to lie to your face and say awful things." And it's like the problem is that every so often CIG does lie, or at least seems to stretch the truth so that they can try to fight fires and keep people happy.
When you say CIG, do you mean like marketing CIG or
I mean management.
Because I think there's different parts of CIG.
I mean the Robertses and the other leaders of the company will come out and say a bunch of things to calm people down, and they are
like 4.0.
They are winging the shit out of it, and they don't know what they're doing, and they're trying to do the right thing. Then they think it's the right thing, but they don't know, and so they're just talking out their ass. And I think that's the kind of problem you have with things like these, like the Saber Peregrine and Saber Firebird. It's like sort of like that's sort of you don't read the room, you don't quite understand, and then people get mad or people just kind of go and that's the worst part is people don't get mad, is people just kind of go like who remembers the Peregrine? It was released a couple of months ago. Like I don't know. It was like a week that people talked about this thing.
September.
And then they forgot it existed.
We talked more about it before it came out than after.
I think you're describing a little bit like what people in business do, where they work in the business rather than on the business, and you need to do both. And they're making the game so much that they sometimes just don't come up for air and see us as the community what our needs are. And yes, they do have people that do that, but are they communicating enough with each other to get that message across to the higher ups that actually get to make the decisions? So yeah, I see where you guys are going from it.
Yeah.
But again, one of the things I learned talking to Ben and John was a lot of the time they just make cool shit they want to make. Yeah. And things like the Ares Ion and the Inferno, that's just because John Crew wanted to make a Crusader ship with a big gun. But as you and Agrid point out, it just totally broke all of Crusader's lore.
And also the aesthetics and the it's
that's what they wanted to do. So a lot
you
of
gotta find a place for it to fit at least.
Yeah. Well,
make cool stuff. But
what I'm saying is they're riding by the seat of their pants a little bit. Is what I'm trying to say. So that's why things they probably went to the guy and go, "What type of ship would you like to make?" He goes, "Oh, I'd love to take this into a racer," and so he went and made a racer. That could just be as simple as that.
It's one of the problems I have with a lot of the ship design. It's one of my problems that I have with the Intrepid personally, is that CIG tends to do this thing where they use rule of cool over everything. So like they'll break their own design standards just to do something cool. And it's like now there's no reason to actually pay attention to the design standards. And then when they get surprised when people don't like the thing that they made, because it's like, well, like it's like if you made a MISC ship that looked like Anvil, people would be like, people would be like, I'm not going to buy that ship, because people buy ships on looks as well. And if it looks bad, then or doesn't fit the aesthetic they're looking for, they don't buy it. And there's an aesthetic that they've developed over time. So it's I would love for CIG to be reminded that sometimes constraint breeds creativity.
The Intrepid's a weird one from a looks proposition, because a lot of people treat it like a Spirit, but it's actually based on the Ares. You can tell when you look at it. But I think the real big thing, as me and Space Tomato went through, was it you and me, Space, that went through it? Or was it someone else I went through it with? It's mainly the center line is out of place, right? But again, much like the Redeemer and much like the Reclaimer, if they come back and put those designs into other ships that come down the line, I will then be fine with it. So they've just got to remember, like as I said about the Intrepid, they need to build some ship where the cockpit is completely off to the left on a Crusader ship or something like that, just to show that there's some reasoning for it.
Follow through.
It's not just a one-off. Follow through. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it fits pretty well. Paul, you said you have something with the Intrepid. Not a big fan of it.
Well, we already talked about it a little bit. My biggest issue with the Intrepid, and I don't want to go too far off because we're already way off.
We're almost an hour in, and I don't think we're halfway through the ships. This is crazy. So
all I'll say, we already talked about it, is that like it's about starter ships and how I want starter ships. Each starter ship to actually be good at something, and
that's
I'm also of the opinion that like advanced starters need to all be the same price.
Yeah,
it would have been.
That way you can just like pick what you want rather than having to like which one's more value for your money. And
I think that's kind of that ruins it a bit, is that everything's priced differently. It makes people focus so much more on the dollar value, when a lot of people, people will say, oh, it's a starter ship, you have to get it with a game package. I think a lot of people are going to buy these ships in game rather than not by dollar value, and it'll be a lot easier to do that way.
If CIG made every single advanced starter $80, which they should, like the Avenger Titan, $80.
So they made that 60 for starters, 80 for
starters,
advanced.
80 for advanced starters, and that I think, and like they do with, like, you can choose the Mustang or the Aurora, you know, when you buy the game package. If they just said, hey, you want the advanced starters, here's these lineup of all these different ships that you can purchase at this price. Now suddenly people are going to be buying it based off of aesthetics rather than price, because some of these things are just going to be straight up better, but they're all the same price. So it's like there's not much of an argument at that point.
And there's definitely, especially on the starter side, they are a lot closer together than almost any other ship series. Like as you go up, they split. Even going to advanced, they start to split. But that initial thing, they're almost a cookie cutter of each other. All right, Vanguard. We have 4 here in the lineup. I believe it's 4. Yep.
We got to lump them all together.
Yeah, I usually do, because they're not that different. It's just essentially the modular room that changes. I think the Sentinel is where it's at in this lineup. I've really soured on this ship as time's gone by because of the nose gun situation. And again, you've got 2 people in it, and you know how I talk about the Hurricane. It's got that problem where the turret gunner is basically in a weaker position than the pilot, so it just feels so tacked on, like you're just being dragged everywhere. But obviously he's also the engineer for the redundancy on this thing as well, and he'd probably be doing the e-warfare stuff in the case of the Sentinel. So he does have multi-role where the pilot's just flying and shooting. I don't know, $275. It is really quite different from a lot of the other heavy fighters, but a lot of the heavy fighters are two-seaters, you know. I think the only real heavy fighter at the moment that's solo is the F8. I could be wrong there. I really need to go check that again. But
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put this as a heavy fighter. I would put this as a medium ship. If you're going to look at this, I'd look at it as the same value, same sort of range as the Freelancer, the Cutlass, the Zeus, the C1, the Spirit.
Wow, really?
Yeah, that's why I would look at it as, because it's that sort of, it's just the pure combat of those.
So
range.
how much cargo does this thing carry?
The one thing there's one that carries a little bit of cargo, if I remember correctly. It's like 1/8 SCU cargo space. I might be wrong.
Oh,
it's
okay.
It's
so you're missing out on cargo for sure.
You're missing out on cargo. But like I said, it's a pure combat. It's like absolutely purebred combat version of those sorts of medium ships.
So this would be like, it's kind of like the larger version of the Avenger Titan in a way. It's like the combat model of its class.
It's a long range fighter, essentially. It's designed to go off that, and that's why they call it a heavy fighter, because it's essentially is a long range, extra fuel tanks and stuff like that. So if you think of the Redeemer as kind of like a long range gunship in its current default configuration, this is more the heavy. I know you don't want to call it a heavy fighter, but that's it's a bit weird. They call it a heavy fighter, but it kind of is this weird middle ground. It's somewhere between the heavy fighters and like what the Redeemer does. It's really hard to explain.
It's because it's based off of the Mosquito and the P-38 Lightning. Like it's based off those larger fighters, which were like more like bombers. Really, they're like bomber chassis, but with the fighters. And that's why I say, if you're going to buy these, think of them as that. Think of these as like you want to view combat, but you want to have the same range as a Freelancer or as a Cutlass. Like so if you're into that sort of single player option, single player, but multiplayer optional. That's what this is kind of designed around. So.
So
what do you think?
Just let me give you a brief description of them all. So this is kind of a little bit like the Gladiator, but a lot more long range. This is basically a small dropship variant. This one's the e-warfare. That's the only real kind of e-warfare ship in the game at the moment. I guess you could kind of say the hacking ships like the Herald and the MSR might be a little bit, but that's the Defender has EMP missiles as well. So that's basically, but this is the predominant one. And then the Warden, which is kind of more like the long range
fighter,
the fighter
stock fighter.
So for me, it's this one because it's the most unique in the entire game. But I don't know. Do you guys want to talk about which is your favorite variant?
Well, I like how the Sentinel looks. I think it looks the best of all of them. The one before it, I don't know which one that is, the one that's used as a dropship and boarding ship. I do wonder if they're going to try and redesign that at all, or what they'll do to make that compare and contrast to the Legionnaire.
They did. They called it the Valkyrie. I'm not joking. That's how it happened.
No, I know that. I get that, but for boarding.
Yeah. So they made the Hoplite for Squadron 42, right? Because they needed a dropship. So they made that. It didn't meet their needs. So then they went and made the Valkyrie.
Yeah. But then they made the Legionnaire, which is a better boarding ship than it. So are they going to do something to make this directly connect to ships in the same way the Legionnaire does? Are they going to give it the ability to hack like the Legionnaire does? Is this a lesser version? Is this something that just boards when there's a flight deck to land on? Like
it's unfortunately a lesser version. And I think there's a lot of things like that, like the Rock DS is an example, where there's a few things I think they just need to remove the clutter, and this is probably one of them, to be honest with you.
I mean, to be fair, I think that the value in the Hoplite is that the Hoplite is in lore, in fiction, it's because the Legionnaire is going to use different parts than than most other ships. So the idea being that you have a ship that uses the same parts that has 4 different values, different usages. And I think that's if they can translate that in game, whereas like, why would you use a Vanguard hoplite? Well, because I've got a screen of Harbingers, Sentinels, and Wardens. So why wouldn't I use the same ship that uses all the same parts?
But you could use it. But you could take a Redeemer.
But you don't. So that's what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It makes the Vanguard itself better, but then there are better options down it to start with. So it's.
But that's the value. I think that's where it sits, and I think that's going to be the hardest thing for them to sell in the future. But my personal is the Harbinger, just because the Harbinger is it's that bomber variant, because it allows you to basically get the same value of a gladiator, but like with longer range.
Let's just make this
facility of a fighter.
Let's just make it clear for anyone that is listening. So you can essentially take any one of these variants and swap the pod out, and it becomes the other variant. That is the strength that Paul was trying to explain.
Yes, now I think they have said that possibly the hoplite won't have that ability. Right. I think if they could fix that so it does have that ability, that becomes the huge strength. Whereas like you can turn any ship into a hoplite would make it so much more valuable.
So there are other benefits as well. So for example, like the armor on the Harbinger would not transfer. It's only the pod on the inside, but you can obviously just pull the guns off and put different guns on. But some of the variants like the Harbinger have extra armor. I believe there's something to do with EMP resistance on this one. So there are little differences, but basically you can copy most of the features across just by swapping the pod. So that is a bit of a unique ability with that one. All right.
My favorite ship.
Yeah.
Last one.
We're done. We're on the last one. Damn.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us about it.
I love it. I've been arguing that the Vulcan is more valuable on the Inforunners for years, and me and X have disagreed on this one. I think that the value of the Vulcan will shine when it comes out.
I've come a little bit around to it. Like Badger's sold me a lot on it, by the way. Landing behind, like he kind of said, imagine you're on a battlefield and there's a hill and the tank's broken down. Do you want to send the Crucible all the way down to get the tank, or do you send this thing on, it lands behind the hill and just sends a drone over?
Yeah,
that has some value.
This thing is
Go ahead.
Oh, this offers the same kind of gameplay that I feel like the SRV does for miners, where you can be a miner and never have to move from your job because an SRV can always tow the ships over there, or tow the asteroids over there. Same with salvage. This thing can be sitting amongst a crew of the same miners, salvagers, combat, whatever you want, and it can keep everybody topped up on fuel, on ammo, keep them repaired, and you don't really have to fly the ship around. This is like this is probably my favorite industrial ship. This is such a winner when it comes to the ability to do group gameplay. Don't know how this will work when it comes to more of the PvE mission-based stuff, but this is an incredibly valuable ship. It's like a mid-size. It's perfect size. It's around 30 to 40 meters. You've got your internals, habitation, space for everybody to live and have their own place. You've got a place for drones to be worked on and within the environment. And it's a unique design. I think this is a great ship for the game, and I'm really sad that we haven't gotten to see really anything on it since its initial unveiling like 6 years ago.
I will go so far as to say that I hope that the Vulcan is the base for most drone gameplay, because I would love to see more drone ships like this, like a drone combat ship where somebody can the carrier from StarCraft, the Protoss carrier from StarCraft, where they have these little drone fighters you can control.
Probably be the Starlancer build that gets drones first, though. To be honest with you,
yes, but I mean, like that's what I mean, though, is like the value of this ship is the fact that it is a almost central hub for other tiny ships, and so you can kind of use it as sort of a RTS style device, and you don't have to move around with it. Its value is going to come in when you're doing any sort of industrial or even combat functionality where you need a little bit of help. It is the healer. This is the healer or the buffer of ships. And as somebody who mains healer often, because nobody wants to be healer, so I ended up picking up this. This speaks to me because this is one of those things where it's not just a, hey, I got to heal. It's like you got to triage, you got to plan, you got to figure out what you're going to do, you got to work to coordinate with your crew to get things done, you got to coordinate with the squadron you're helping out, or the mining company you're working with, or the salvage crew that's going out there, and it becomes more of a an interesting ship that can create interesting stories, and that's why I like it. And
I do wonder
200 too.
So
I do wonder.
Well, you go first. I'll wait.
Well, I do wonder how well this thing works. Never mind.
All right.
I'll chase that thought later.
So I've got a positive thing to say about it and a negative thing. So I'll start with a negative. And it's kind of interesting. You were saying before that they design ships that look like other manufacturers. Still to this day, I cannot see this as an Aegis ship. It looks like you cannot look at that canopy and not see the Carrack. I cannot look at the engines on the outside and see the Valkyrie. It looks like an Anvil ship, not an Aegis ship. Even to this day, I still see it as Anvil, not Aegis. So that's my only negative with it.
Ironically, you ask what engines have the same design style and of the Reclaimer. It's the Reclaimer engines. These are miniature Reclaimer engines, and I think that's probably what we'll see when the Vulcan fully comes out. Is those engines will end up becoming chunky like the Reclaimer engines because they want to kind of match that sort of style.
Maybe they need to make the cockpit a little bit more like the hexagon type of bubble Reclaimer thing. Yeah, because it looks like a Carrack one.
Yeah. I think that's where they were going for originally, and I think as they kind of figure out what the Aegis style is, they'll be doing that.
Well, the Aegis utility style, because it is different from the
Aegis civilian style.
Yeah. That's the right way. Right.
I like the look of this thing.
Okay, as a positive though, if you look at the Terrapin at $220 that is released, this is not released, but it's $200, and it's twice the size of the Terrapin at least. So it is a better value proposition. But then again, the Terrapin is the worst price profession starter, or that we have in the entire game, and it makes me scared for what the medical Terrapin's going to be when that drops in a few days' time. So yeah.
I was going to say earlier that I wonder how this thing's drones would act in comparison to other drones in the game. Like, could you land one of these things at a base building operation and have your base building drones building the base, and then your repairing drones repairing the stuff that's like like the star Lancer and stuff that's building?
Yeah, I don't think the drones are going to win any Oscars if that's what you're asking. But
maybe Grammys.
Yeah. Look, I think the only other concern for this is it's got such a limited CCU capacity, same as the Vulture with 12. Like, how many things you're going to be able to do at once, or how long you're going to be able to be out before you got to go back. That's always things like, because again, you got the 3 drones, repair, refuel, and so, I think they said recycle. Is that the other one? I can't remember. There was 3 R things that it had.
Rearm.
Repair, refuel, and rearm.
That's it, yeah. So are they 3 separate drones or the same 3 drones? Like that, there's some little things I want to know too.
You can switch out equipment on them to do the different things. So you can have all 3 of them doing the same thing.
So it will see more benefits, I think, as time goes by. And as you said, I think it really is the drone ship. I don't know how else to call that, right? Like it is a drone starter. And I think it's really going to set up all the other ships coming down the line that are more tailored. So to give an example, because it has the 3 different functions, if you just say the Reclaimer, because that's another one we looked at earlier today, that's more likely just to have all salvage drones. Now, technically, you could put another type of drone on it, but it's probably going to benefit more for the same type, where this one is a bit more hydralistic, as in it has multiple heads, if you know what I mean, where... Did you get where I'm going at? Like same with the Carrack. The Carrack's probably more likely just going to have explorer drones. It's not going to... Do you guys agree with me on that?
Jack of all trades, master.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I think its true value is not fully seen until it's out. I think I'll leave it there, but yeah. All right. Is there anything else you guys would like to add, or can we kind of wrap it up there for today?
The Titan starter package is a steal.
Let's go back and have a look at that real quick. Right. Where is it? Pledge store ships.
Yeah, all of those starter packages have been in have been up for everything. So it's like they have discounts for like a bunch of them already. They've been up since yesterday.
Sorry, my cat just somehow came through the door and opened it, and I thought someone was
coming
in my room.
So the Intrepid, the Cutter, which is $51. Yep. The
Avengers down here.
The Avenger, that's the Titan starter package.
Yeah, you want the
Yeah. I remember seeing somebody saying someone showing one that was like $54.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a steal.
It may have been an older package though, but yeah. So I withdraw that unless I can find it somewhere else.
Honestly, the Intrepid starter at 68 is not bad.
No, it's not.
I think that's good value.
Yeah. Well, these are just packages. It might have been the Avenger on its own. So
no, it was a starter package. It was a starter package. Yeah.
I don't know. I can get behind a couple of these at their price points. You know, this one. Look, I don't know what you think about the Intrepid, but again, with the saving, right? It's the same across the board here. You can do the same with the Cutter, but I'd be recommending the Cutter over this. That's just again, but you do get LTI on this one as well. So,
yep.
All right. Yeah. Go away. He just comes in, loves me. All right, pain in the butt. Right. With that, then I think we can kind of wrap it up. Where can people find you boys on the interweb? Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Space.
Me? Okay. My name is Space Tomato. I mean, I guess you probably got that throughout the show. I do YouTube videos and podcasts as well, kind of like this. These two folks are on them regularly and will be on them sometime in the next couple weeks. We got to talk about that actually.
So good.
But yeah, I do that on Space Tomato too. That's my second channel. Deep dives, long form content, casual updates, stuff like that. Check that out over in Space Tomato 2. Shorter form, more kind of like prepared, edited stuff on regular Space Tomato channel. And then I've got a gameplay channel, Space Tomato Plays. If you want to see me stream, a lot of the stuff I publish as videos, we do live on main Space Tomato channel and on Twitch.
If you're getting more channels, you're going to have a context page.
Yeah, gonna have to have a remote or something. I don't know. It's gonna try and make a joke out of it.
I'll jump in on that one. I've also started new pages too. Yeah. I've started the Captain's Table podcast as its own channel page because it's algorithm. It's just how the YouTube algorithm works.
Yep.
It's
very
the YouTube. For those of you who don't know, the YouTube algorithm is very dumb. It is very stupid, and I don't mean as in like it's a dumb thing. No, like it is unable to handle multiple nuanced ideas in itself.
Yeah.
So you have to simplify it as much as possible so that the algorithm understands what you are as a channel so that they can promote you to the proper people. Yeah. So
that's why it feels like people put out the same videos over and over again.
Because
you have to do the same stuff. Yeah.
Because otherwise it will not promote you to the people who even subscribe to you. So
it's kind of what's been happening to us because we've really kept everything under the one channel, but it's just I'm seeing the numbers all go. So yeah, I'm gonna have to do the same thing soon. All right.
And I'll say I'm the Astropub.
Yep.
Paul Berserker 1, Batman Shelley, the Astropub on YouTube, the Astro Historian on YouTube, the Captain's Table podcast on YouTube. You can find me on all of those. Please do hit those subscribe buttons there. And on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/theastropub.
All right. I'll do the usual thing. So don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Thank you everyone that went the extra mail at the end of the video on Patreon. With that, then he has been the Astropub. He's been Space Tomato. I've been Execute, and we'll see you next time, citizens.